Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're talking about why play is so important in healing. So, we're going to talk about what is play, why is it important, what makes it hard to play, and how to start. I'm Jen. I'm a holistic family consultant and a supporter of people who want to live more fulfilling lives, have healthier, happier relationships, especially people who hold a queer, neurodiverse, or non-monogamous identity. You can find out more about me on my website, which is linked below the video. And I'm talking about this in part because I've got this awesome camp for grown-ups coming up this summer where we're going to do a whole lot of play and a whole lot of healing. So we're going to talk a little bit about why play today, and then at the end, I'll give you a little bit more information about the camp that's coming up. So first of all, we've got to define what play is. So the way I think about play is play needs to be creative, inconsequential, open-ended, and fun. So that could encompass a whole lot of different things. And you'll also notice that that's not about the what you're doing, it's about how you're doing it in some senses. So a lot of things can be playful or can feel very serious depending on how they're approached. So we're going to talk about each of those just a little bit. So creative, meaning that you get to decide in some way how you engage with it. So you can think about this something like Play-Doh, where you literally can make whatever you want. Or you could think about this something like a board game where you have choices about what moves you make, for example. So it doesn't have to be creative like making a masterful piece of art. Creative just meaning that you get to make decisions. You have agency and choice in what you do. Play has to be inconsequential, meaning there's no dire fate that is going to happen. The play goes sideways, it's good, it's bad, the world doesn't end, nothing burns down. So there has to be low to no stakes. Your ego is not at stake. Your health is not at stake. Your livelihood is not at stake. So that there's nothing attached to the play. It is just for its own sake. Play needs to be open ended. And by this I mean that there has to be no judgment, no right or wrong answer. So I think it's important here to distinguish uh, play from uh, other things that are sometimes fun. An example from my own life is that I dance, and for me, dance is fun. It's also often play. But when a teacher says do this set of moves, there is you do that or you don't. And it's very possible to become detached from whether or not you do it right, and then have this open-endedness, but that's a more advanced way to play. So especially for people who have a lot of perfectionism, who have internalized the idea that if I make a mistake I am wrong, the idea of doing something like that where you might and probably will at least some of the time do it wrong is not going to be play, at least not until you've done some more healing and you're a little bit more detached from that idea. So it's really important when you're thinking about where to start that it's things that there is no right or wrong, there is no good or bad, there's no judgment, no value judgments that can be put on what you're doing. And then the last piece of this we also need to talk about a little bit, which is fun. And play should be fun. And at first, especially if you have a trauma history, it may not feel fun because fun may not feel safe. And we'll talk about that a little more when we get into why it's hard to play. But I want you to hold on to that as it is a helpful barometer of am I playing, whether or not you're having fun. But if nothing feels like it's going to be fun, or if the idea of being vulnerable enough to let go of perfectionism, if that feels unsafe, then it may not be able to feel fun at first. And there may need to be an establishment of it's safe for me to do this before it can start to feel fun. So we'll talk about that more again in a minute. And I'm also going to put a pinhole in if it feels like it's really hard to do this, get help doing it, get support. So why does play matter in healing? Well, fundamentally, you can't play if you're not safe, and you can't be in a stress response and also be playing. So all of the things we think about that happen with trauma, with chronic stress, even with acute stress, all of those things are activating survival instincts, and none of that can be activated while you're also playing. Now, the challenge with this is it sets up a little bit of a chicken and an egg, right? I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I can't play right now. Even if I know that it would be helpful, I can't get there. And so there's the like, do I play to pull me out of the stress response, or do I need to calm down the stress response in order to play? And the answer can be a little bit of both or either, depending on where you're at. So if it a lot of us are given a lot more tools for calming the stress response than we are for play. So if you can't engage play when you're in an acute stress response or when you're triggered or having a trauma response, using those tools to calm that down, to calm the nervous system down first may be the first step that's necessary. And then once you're calm enough, but it's like a low simmer, that may be the place to start to bring in some play. And the bringing in some play can help to bring the nervous system down further, regulate further. So play discharges stress and tension. Play activates hope. Play is resourcing. And then more specifically in healing, because that nervous system regulation and the sense of safety and the joyfulness, all of that is opening as a situation in which it's possible to heal, in which the nervous system is able to engage in a way that's healing. So it's like a foundational thing. More directly in actually healing, uh, play can be a way to non-verbally explore things that have happened, especially things that have happened before we had words. And when we're working on relational healing with a child or a partner or a friend or a parent, anyone, playing together can feel connecting and can reduce the tension in the relationship. And I will just put a pin in, if it's relational healing, there has to be relational safety first before the playing can feel safe. And so same with, if there's not a internal sense of safety that allows you to play, the working on creating enough of a sense of relational safety. And relational safety doesn't mean it has to feel comfortable or easy. It just means that there has to be enough space for enough vulnerability for this creativity and open-endedness and it feeling safe to let go enough to play. All right, so why can it feel hard to play? Most of us, if we've made it to adulthood and we're fairly functional adults, we have deeply internalized the idea that play is for children and that play is something that as you grow up and you have serious responsibilities and serious things you need to do, you don't have time to play. Play is superfluous, it's not important, and we can brush it aside in favor of all of that seriousness. So it can feel hard to get back to that. And especially if we have a lot of judgments on what we should be doing, what we're supposed to be doing. And a lot of that can come with having had trauma or having had insecure attachments where we needed to be more adult than was appropriate at too young of an age. We lost play before we should have, which we never should. We should always continue to play as adults, but before it became would naturally become a less central part of our lives. If play was not allowed or was looked down on, um, then it can be hard for us to allow ourselves to play. Uh, Another thing that can make it hard is that as you start to play, as you start to regulate in your nervous system, things can come up. So memories or thoughts or feelings or tears can come up. And if we're not equipped or supported in a way that helps us deal with that, then it can feel like the play is dangerous because the play opens the door to a thing that we don't know how to handle. We don't know how to hold. So with with as you explore this, if you feel resistance to play, if you feel like, ugh, I really don't want to do this, don't force yourself. In part because it can't be play if it's forced, and in part because it's in reinforcing the idea that you have to make yourself or you never will. With play, we want it to feel joyful and bubbling out of us, and that can't happen with resistance. So instead of trying to force past the resistance, explore the resistance, starting from the principle that you have good reason for that resistance. I don't know what it is because your reason might not be somebody else's, but you have good reason. It's there to keep you safe, to help you function in the world, and it helped you get to here and now. And so it's important and it's valuable and it's good, and we need to give it the space to be seen and not just brushed aside. And it might be that it helps you to get to here and now, but it's not serving you anymore. In which case, as we bring the light to it, as we bring the attention and we bring curiosity to it and validation to it, we can start to see the incongruency of, oh, I see that and how it's valuable, but I don't actually need it now. And that's when it can start to slip away little by little and open up more room for what's helpful now. And play might be part of what's helpful now. So, bringing us now into how to start to bring in play. And the first thing I want you to hear, and this is really important, I really want you to hear that play is a skill. Play is not a thing that you are. You're not born playful or not playful. Play is a skill, and anyone can learn a skill. So you may be a beginner at play right now, but you can learn to play. Play cannot be artificial or forced. Like I was talking about with resistance, we can't be like, yay, look at me, I'm playing, I'm having fun now. It doesn't work because it doesn't go in. That's a mask. That's pretending to play. So if you have children and animals in your life, they can help. Animals, especially cats and dogs and young children, play instinctively. They can't not play. So engaging with them, responding to them, letting them lead can be a doorway into play. And then as we start to feel a little bit more comfortable in that space, we can start to introduce our own creativity, our own ideas into that open-endedness. But you don't necessarily need to have children or animals to play, but starting slow. So it doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be a big chunk of time or something that feels totally new and scary. It's okay to play alone. It's okay to play for very short periods of time. And it's okay to play with support. It's okay to, ask a friend or a coach or a therapist or someone to help you introduce play if you're not sure where to start. Some ideas for things that are really small is like maybe you're loading the dishes and you just tap out a rhythm on the countertop. Uh, Maybe you are doing something like the laundry and you give a twirl after you load the washer. It can be very little things that feel silly and pointless. If it feels silly and pointless, it's probably playful. So thinking about how can you bring just teeny, teeny little pieces like that. Um, and you can think about it, if there are things that feel a little bit joyful, a little bit goofy, you don't need to tell anybody. You don't need to do it in front of anybody. Just bringing the little moments of silly playfulness is a way to start to open the door to having more play and seeing how that feels in your body. So at SOAR Camp this summer, we are going to be doing lots of healing and lots of play. It's 4 days. We're going to have 4 days camping in the Colorado Rockies, and we're going to be connecting with nature. We're going to be connecting with community. We have a lot of practices that we're going to bring that we can do together and that you can take home and do on your own afterwards. And it's an opportunity to really experience what does it feel like to really be in healthy relationships and to really be a part of a community for a couple of days that is grounded, that is nurtured, that is open and working together. And it's going to be a wonderful time. And whether or not you're thinking about coming camping with us this summer, I want to invite you to our SOAR Camp kickoff celebration, which is happening on Sunday, February 9th at 10 o'clock Mountain Time. That's noon Eastern Time. And we'll spend about an hour. We'll do a couple of healing play practices during that call. So I'm leading this camp with my mentor, Rebecca Thompson Hitt of the Consciously Parenting Project. And so she and I will each give you a playful healing tool. We'll do them together. You can have your video off, nobody needs to know. And then there are things that you can also do again on your own. So you'll get things that are helpful right then. This kickoff celebration, it's free. So come play with us, and then we'll also answer your questions at the end of that call about SOAR Camp and any information that you need so you can decide whether you want to come camping with us this summer. So links to all of that will be in the description, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.